Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday, July 21st meeting of the City Council for the City of Cannon Falls. Can we have roll call, please?
Bringold.
Here.
Duncan.
Here.
Gesme.
Here.
Lindell.
Here.
Mattson.
Here.
Montgomery.
Here.
Altoff.
Here. Would you rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Duncan, a second by Lundell to approve the agenda. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, consent agenda. Consent agenda items may be adopted under one motion as presented, or may be removed for discussion and resolution as council business. For you in the audience and at home, I will go through the consent agenda. Item A, just and correct claims for the accounting period ending July 17th, 2020. Item B, minute meetings for the July 7th, 2020 City Council meeting. Item C, bituminous crack sealing proposal. Item D, Resolution 2492, approving an agreement for an electric vehicle charging station for the City of Cannon Falls. Item E, Resolution 2493, accepting a monetary donation of $750 from Country Financial for the ambulance department. And item F, Resolution 2494, accepting a monetary donation of $250 from Gemini for the ambulance department. Is there anything the council would like to pull down?
I'd like to pull down item C, the crack ceiling proposal.
Okay, we'll put that under council business as item C, the crack ceiling proposal. Is there anything else?
D.
B?
D.
D. That'll go under council business as D. That's a resolution approving an agreement for an electric vehicle charging station for the City of Cannon Falls. Anything else? Do I have a motion to accept the consent agenda minus items C and D?
So move. I'll second.
Motion by Mattson, a second by Gesme to approve the consent agenda minus items C and D. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, council business. Item A, Resolution 2495, approving a conditional use permit for John Anderson. Neil, you want to take that?
This resolution is for a variance conditional use permit for the height of a garage from 16 to 24 feet. This went through the public hearing in planning and zoning and was approved. It was actually went through council here a couple meetings ago also, and you unanimously approved it then too, but based on a publishing error, we are bringing it back to you.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the conditional use permit for John Anderson?
So moved.
I'll set.
Motion by Bringle and second by Duncan to approve Resolution 2495, conditional use permit. Conditional use permit for John Anderson. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, item B, Resolution 2496, conditional use permit for the Valley View Recovery Center. before we get into this, I will accept some public input tonight, but something maybe new to this. We've been through this about 2 or 3 times now, twice at the planning and once at council. If there's anything new you would like to say tonight, you'll have 3 minutes to say that tonight. So if there's anybody who would like to talk, you got 3 minutes now for right now. Anybody?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
if possible, if we could put some kind of a place for outside, a way so people can't see, you know, how people smoke and that, like a screen or winter, I don't know. Something like that is one thing I would like to see.
A screened-in area for,
Yeah,
like for
let
the,
'em- you know, right, and it's good if it rains and all this. And second thing would be, and I know we can't do it with this, but I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people have asked if in the future that you could get that kitchen in as soon as possible.
I think that's kind of delving into their business, but
Well, it is, but I mean.
I
but know,
understand.
But people had, because.
I understand your question, but
Because
I don't
of-
think that's what we're here to
No, but
answer.
I know, but it's just let him know.
Do you want me to come up and be part of the conversation now, or do you want to continue discussion?
It's up
come
to
on
you.
up,
Go-
Jacob,
go up.
come on up.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Jacob, owner, CEO of Valley View Recovery Center. So here to answer all your questions like that, for sure. The screen for the smoking in my business plan, one of the last pages is additional information, and it would regard things, one of them is smoking. Out back on the west side of the facility is going to be the only exit that people can smoke out of, other than being supervised. I do plan on putting up a screen there on, let's say, the north side of the building from that corner. There is a sidewalk that comes around that corner of the building, so there will be a little bit of a gap, but enough to block some wind and some, obvious, that will be the boundary for where people would be able to smoke, not out on the side of the building, not out in front.
Right.
I agree, that's definitely something that I've already been thinking of.
Good.
The kitchen, I do have plans. I would love to have a kitchen in the facility. When it comes to renovations and licensing, getting the less amount of renovations in the middle of licensing process is usually ideal to continue licensing as quick as possible. Once I'm licensed, I do have some plans with Minnesota Department of Health to start updating more parts of the licensing, or more parts of the kitchen area, mainly the dishwashing and the cleanliness parts of, going from a limited license, you don't have all the amenities of a full kitchen. So I would love to have a full kitchen in the facility in the future. Part of that is going to be planning. I'm not able to give a date or a time
No,
frame
and
on
that's,
it.
we're not.
Right.
Any other questions for Jacob? Hearing none, is there any other discussion by the council? Hearing none, is there a motion on Resolution 2496?
I move to approve Resolution 2496 for the conditional use permit for Valley View Recovery Center.
Do you want to add on the smoking area, or?
Yes, as a condition, as soon as possible, to also fix that up.
Sure.
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, Resolution 2496 for a conditional use permit for for the Valley View Recovery Center with the condition of looking into that smoking area and screened off area on the property. Okay. Is there any other discussion? Let's take a vote. I'd like a roll call vote on that.
Bringold,
Aye.
Duncan,
Aye.
Gesme,
Aye.
Lundell,
Aye.
Mattson,
Aye.
Montgomery.
Aye.
Okay,
There you go.
by a vote of 6-0, the conditional use permit is granted for Valley View Recovery Center.
Thanks all for your time and consideration.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Okay, item C, the crack ceiling proposal. Matt?
Yeah, when I saw that this was on the consent agenda, I just wanted to bring it up.
Excuse me, Matt.
Yes, sir.
Hey, you guys got to stay for the whole thing.
Fun.
This is the
so
exciting stuff.
fun.
I wanted to pull this down just for discussion because, it's $15,000, and it was never brought up in any Public Works. And I'm wondering how we got to this, because when I talked to the Public Works Department, I drove through that neighborhood. Those roads actually seem to be in pretty good shape compared to others. I know we've got some neighborhoods picked out for the mill and overlay, but even the ceiling and crack ceiling and that, it just seems like, how did we get to that neighborhood? I'm just wondering for some clarification and to see if maybe we pull it and find a different neighborhood that might be in worse shape.
Well, you have to, sometimes in the near future, we'll have to do a bituminous plan. What we're trying to accomplish here is to keep the good streets in good condition so we can try and catch up with the worst streets. That take, there's going to be a lot of mill and overlay going on in the near future. But if we don't take care of the ones that are in marginal condition, with crack sealing or seal coating, and there's many thoughts out there in the public works world, even with engineering, on what is the best way of taking care of streets. Some people say crack sealing is not a good thing to do. Some people say give them a mill and overlay as the time wears on in 10 years, and some people say you got to keep the cracks filled. Even in the engineering field, you're going to get different opinions from different people. So with this, we're trying to keep the condition of them streets in good condition so we can concentrate on our mills and overlays for the future. That $150,000 that we talked about at the work session can start to tackle some of them tougher streets that we have.
How much, what's the timeline you think that the crack sealing and seal coating, does that buy you 5 years, 10 years? I mean,
It should
more
gra-
bang for your buck for 15 grand doing that instead of waiting to mill and overlay?
Well, see, there's that variance in people's opinion. You'll get one that says that why bother? And like I said, some will say you can get 25 years if you continue with the practice. What's the right way of doing it? Let's see what the new engineering service says. Maybe the new public works director will have a different opinion. All I know is we have to continue to maintain the infrastructure that we have. It was budgeted in the crack sealing line item, hence why you're seeing it today. We can do other things with that. We could probably do another block of mill and overlay if that's what you prefer. We're getting 2 developments done with this project. It's going to keep the water out of the sub-base, which is a big thing. But like I said, there's differing opinions in everybody's experience.
Fair enough, thank you.
Is there a motion to approve the crack ceiling proposal?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Motion by Duncan, a second by Lundell to approve the crack ceiling proposal. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, item D was Resolution 2492, approving an agreement for an electric vehicle charging station for the city of Cannon Falls. Steve?
I'm not against anything except for the proposed location or the alternate location. I think I'm not understanding why these are the only two options.
Well, we did go down, we did take a walk down to the city parking lot, and we figured that during the week, and I guess I live here and I frequent downtown quite a bit, and those parking spots that I have as the first proposed location seem to be the last spots used in the parking lot, which is weird because that's shaded. I would rather park my car where it's shaded than any place else. But that way it would keep, someone that is coming to charge their car isn't going to be leaving it there all day. So that's why we didn't want to take up spaces that would be closer to the gazebo where like the trailhead would be. The Zeph company that would be taking care of, that we're entering an agreement with, they asked that it be in a spot that's easily, able to be found. There's already power down there because we did consider the overflow parking where like the park and ride would be, or the other thing is that where the other overflow is, that would be west of the park and ride, in the wintertime, that's where they usually dump the snow. So plus there's not power there. So there would have to be power run there, which wouldn't necessarily be an expense to us as the city, but it's not a paved lot, and they do require a paved lot. And so that's what Neil and the mayor and I went down, just kind of like trying to figure out what would be the best spots downtown in the city parking lot, and that's what we determined. So the second proposed or alternative spots are actually owned by LTOF, and so there would have to be some type of agreement or something that would have to take place in order for us to use that as our secondary option.
When this ZEF first came to town, it was probably a year ago or more.
I think it was a couple years ago, actually, when I
Couple
looked
years,
back.
maybe it was. They wanted to put it at Casey's. And I argued
Or
that,
SA, I thought.
huh?
I thought they said Casey's or Super America originally.
Well, they wanted Casey's for sure, but I argued that why not put it downtown? I mean, they got to charge for at least 30 minutes, probably an hour. I mean, brings people downtown to look around, I guess, so.
It's
That's why we argued for downtown.
Yep.
completely unrelated, but the Joint
Trail.
Powers Board of the Trail, they approved electric charging stations at the station in Welch. Was it 2 or was it 4? I think it was 2 chargers with 4.
2 chargers with 4 possibilities.
Which is similar, I think the exact
Yeah.
same what we have here. And they did a quick little study of how many electric vehicles park there. And so not just the location of instead of a gas station, but the people who bring their bikes down here or their canoes or whatever to use that parking lot so they can charge while they go out and ride. So
I think it's a big deal. I think it's a good
Yeah,
deal.
just for general information, this isn't costing us anything. I mean,
No.
No.
This all came
Cost us
from a
anything.
lawsuit against Volkswagen when that emissions thing a couple years ago. And this is part of a grant we got. All we got to do is provide the location.
How do people with electric cars find out about the location? Are there signs or?
There's
website?
actually an app.
An app?
Hess does it too on some cars. It'll have a plug.
Okay.
But there's actually plug, I forget what the actual app is called. Not Rate Plug, that's a mortgage thing. My banking brain is coming out.
Bank plug.
Anyway, there is an app that does highlight where the different charging stations are around the nation. It's not just for Minnesota or whatnot. And I think that this is really, like I said, it's not a moneymaker for the city, but it certainly is a great way to pull people off of 52 for 30, 40 minutes. And, they're right smack dab in the middle of downtown. If we were ever to consider doing a charging station in the future, it would be out of our pocket. So I think that, I don't know why, we're one of 22 cities in Minnesota selected, and I think that it's certainly a great opportunity for us to do that.
Yeah, I agree.
There aren't many around, and we got an opportunity between the cities and Rochester, we're gonna be it.
Yep. And even coming from Northfield to Red Wing, I mean, people coming through that corridor, I think, again, it's a reason for people to stop.
Yep.
Any other questions?
That's great.
Not a question, but I have
Location. What, where do you want it?
tell you after the meeting.
Oh, my gosh.
We've discussed this area before in the past, and I just feel it's too congested right there. Plus, you're gonna have, the people that are plugging in there aren't gonna be from town, you already said, they're probably gonna be visitors.
Yep.
So they're gonna be a little bit iffy on how that little parking lot system works there. And I would sure like to see it straight west of the LTOF option on that row, right down on the end.
We do need to have a handicap accessible space. So that, again, is why we also chose the first location that we did, because they need to make it so that it's ADA compliant for a van. So even if it's not a handicap spot, there are extra lines to the right of that first spot when you enter in that.
So it'd be
Cut
kind
through?
of, it'd be kind of like the lines to the left of the last
Yes.
spot on the
Yep.
alternate.
So that would qualify, because they said either 5 spots if you didn't have a handicap accessible, otherwise 4 spots with the extension, like those lines for an ADA accessible van. And again, charging station, I mean, a car's going to be there for 30 minutes. They're not going to be parked there all day long. So
That's
as
what I
far
mean,
as
there's
the
going to be a lot
turnaround.
of in and out right there at the entrance and exit, and I think it's going to cause an issue. But that's just, I'm one of 6. That's all I got.
How do they pay? Is it just like a gas station where they put in a card and?
Yep,
fill
and
up?
it's about $5. I asked the guy from Zeph how much it costs, and he says it's about $5, which is a pretty typical rate.
Yep.
And we will be provided reporting to show how often it's used. And according to the agreement, Zeph needs to keep that charging station there for 5 years, even if it's not getting any action. And they will provide signage so that people are aware that it is a charging station. If we're finding that, your regular cars are parking there, it's something that maybe would have to look for in the future. I was looking for Jeff. If we have to pass an ordinance, at some point that, like, we've got people that are taking up the spaces that aren't charging their vehicles, are we going to ticket them? That's something that we'd have to visit in the future. But for right now, it's just kind of a good faith, that people would, not monopolize that parking space unless they actually are using it for its purpose.
Well, let's hope the parking lot's busy enough.
Right?
So that we have the problem.
Yep.
I talked to the other businesses along the main drive there to see if they cared which parking location.
I did not talk to, I didn't talk to Sue's Garage Sale, I didn't talk to them, and as far as I know some of the employees that work at Family Fair, instead of taking up their parking, they park on the other side. They park on the west side of the city parking lot during the week. So.
Well, is there a motion to approve the charging station? Do you want to put in there where you want it?
How is it determined which spot will be picked? Do we pick?
Well,
or
we
does-
own the part, we own the part that I have as my first option.
Oh, yeah.
The second, the alternative option, we'd have to make a deal with LTOF Hardware.
They'd probably just give it to us.
They probably maintain it too, don't you think?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 2492 with the primary site that Laura has provided for us.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second to approve the electric charging station with the original plot. Is there any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
One opposed? Passes 5-1. Okay. Council committees and commissions. Chamber, Kyle called me, she could not be here tonight from the chamber, but she wanted me to report that the August 9th Fun Fest has been canceled, and also that the chamber golf tournament has been canceled. So, hate to see that, but they're gonna try to have a Fun Fest in September, she told me, so. Okay, the EDA, Laura?
Just a few updates. Our EDA, we did approve a loan for $7,000 to the landowner that owns the spot in between the Beacon and Caldwell Banker. There's some final phase of the soil testing contamination needs to be done before he can proceed with any type of plans. So he does have an application that's been approved by the Petro Fund, which reimburses up to 90% of the cost of the borings that he needs to have done. So the $7,000 that we made him is basically just to get the job done, and then once he gets that reimbursement back from the Petro Fund, then he will pay the EDA off in that lump sum. And we did have him put down 15%, I believe, to make sure that we covered our end at least, so that we would be able to get that back. And it's a 12-month agreement is what that is. But I would think that that project will probably be done yet this year. So I'm not sure how long the turnaround time to get reimbursed from the Petro Fund is. Could be 4 to 8 weeks, I think, is what he said from the last phase that he had done. So we're kind of basing it off of that timeline, but it won't be more than 12 months. Cannon Valley Senior Center, we did have, I enlisted the help of Dan Bassett, who is a local guy alumni from Randolph. Anyway, he's a digital marketing web designer, and he donated some of his time, and then we also used some of our Blandin dollars to get the Cannon Valley Senior Center's website updated and rebranded, and it's a little more responsive. It'll be easy for whether it is their own members or their EDA, or not their EDA director, their senior center director, to make some of those changes and update that. So it'll be a little more user-friendly for them, because right now it's very outdated because nobody knows how to manage the content. So that just launched a few weeks ago. And like I said, Dan donated about half of his time. It probably should have been about $2,000 to have that done, and he donated like $750 worth of his time toward that. So I thought that was pretty good. So that is that one. I did apply for a SMIF, a Small Towns Grant. So it's a Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. They are they were accepting applications through the 30th of this month for a $10,000 grant to go towards cities to help offset any impacts from the COVID pandemic. So I submitted that grant last week, and we probably wouldn't hear back until end of August, I would assume, just because of the deadline being July 30th. And with those funds, my proposal was to use those dollars to help promote Cannon Falls and to drive tourism and business back into the community. So with that, I reached out to a digital marketing firm out of Red Wing, who I've partnered with in a previous lifetime, and they put together a proposal based on a $5,000, a $10,000, and a $20,000 grant proposal based on what we end up receiving. We may not get the whole $10,000, it might be up to that, but I figure why not be prepared to spend those dollars if we get it and we could implement that right away. You approved my charging station, thank you very much. The EDA and the EIC subcommittee met just yesterday. Boy, it seems like a long time ago already. Just to talk about the future of the Cannonball site once it's cleaned up. They did get the guts of it cleaned out last week, so the building should be coming down shortly. But we just kind of wanted to have a game plan, different connections, network that we have to see what would best fit that site, what are our marketing plans for that in the future. So we all kind of had our action items so that we can proceed with that as that building comes down and the site gets cleaned up. We're ready to roll and get something back on it. The CARES Act funds, this is something that the mayor and I have kind of taken this under our wing as far as trying to learn the guts of the new CARES Act funding that the city received. It was just a little over 300,000, is that correct?
310, yeah.
$310,000 that we somehow can put back into our city and community to help offset some of the costs that were incurred because of the pandemic. So another one of those government programs they toss out there without any rules, so we have to kind of fumble around, but they're becoming more defined day by day. So hopefully by the next council meeting, we'll have some ideas as to how we can maybe split that up and how we can maybe do some, there's been some things that have happened here at, like with the DMV, putting up the protective glass, maybe it's redesigning something so that, we can have safe social distancing, but it can also be, we can also do some small business grants back to our businesses to help offset some of the costs that they incurred, either because they were closed or, business obviously isn't back at 100% capacity, so anything that's unbudgeted, and obviously due to a loss, we'll create some type of program to help out our small businesses. And I did find out today too that we are also able to, if necessary, we'll talk with Superintendent Sampson, but we are able to transfer some of that money to another government agency such as the school if they've exhausted their funds that they've received. That's also another option, but that's for another day to discuss. But anyway, but we have till November 15th to spend that money, or it goes back to the county, which then goes back to the state, which then goes back to the feds, so I think we don't want that. So I think that we just need to, get creative within the boundaries that are allowed. And like I said, new rules are coming out daily, but I think that if we start, planning for how we can put that and reinvest it back into our community is going to be the best use of those funds.
Yeah, I think we'll have more guidelines by, say, our next meeting, August 4th, and then maybe we should have a special meeting of the council just to discuss where to.
Because there will be reporting features, even if we give it back to businesses, we can't just cut a check and spread it around evenly. Businesses have to be able to prove that they have expenses that are outstanding from the pandemic. So if we give someone $5,000, but they really only have $2,500 in expenses, then we have to document all of that. So that business wouldn't qualify for $5,000, they qualify for $2,500. So that's what we would figure out. So, but it's an ever-changing program.
Every day.
Yep. So, and then, John, you had mentioned, or Mr. Mayor, sorry, you had mentioned that the chamber has a couple events canceled.
Yes.
But Kyle did reach out to me because she was going to be gone tonight, and she did say that they'd like to have some type of summer sizzling days I think it's the last Friday in August, where businesses can, have a table out front, whether it's selling items or that kind of thing, kind of a flashback to the old crazy days. So it would also give businesses an opportunity, like maybe some of our Fun Fest vendors or something that would maybe be set up, if we close down that, since we're not having that, maybe set up in front of some of the businesses that don't have a retail front, like our insurance agencies or our realtors or something like that. So her question, something to think about, is if she would need to have any type of permit to have that type of event. And I guess I don't know if we go back to crazy days, if there was ever a permit pulled for that type of thing. No streets will be blocked off. She just wanted to make sure that it was okay to proceed with that event without any type of closure or restriction. So, like I said, there won't be any streets closed like Fun Fest. It would just be people on the street, or on the sidewalk, I'm sorry.
Well, we never had a permit in the past. I know that.
I didn't think so, but I was a child when we did that.
You used to
so
be
I
able
don't
to
know.
get a lot for 50 cents. Crab bags.
So, but that is all I have for EDA.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Planning Commission, I just mentioned that the two items that were, the planning commission were the two items we had in the council business tonight. I will mention the planning commission's next meeting will be on August 17th. Because of the elections and getting ready for the elections, we moved it down a week,
Will
so,
there be a meeting for sure?
yeah,
Yeah.
August 17th. Library board, Nicole, anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to give you an update of what's going on at the library. We have actually been pretty busy with our browsing and computer appointments and with curbside. Curbside service is very, very, very popular and we're happy to do it. And also our mystery grab bags are just as popular. People are now catching on that we're happy to pick out books or movies for you. All you have to do is say, I'm interested in this. Can you give me like 5 movies, or can you pick out 10 books for me, like children's books or like 3 or 4 adult books? And we're happy to pick them out and check them out to you and bring them for curbside. But then again, people are still welcome to come in for a half-hour appointment for browsing and a 45-minute appointment for using computers. We do like to do the appointments because that is really good for contact tracing, just in case, heaven forbid, there is any kind of infection. Even though we're doing everything we can to sanitize and put in protective measures in everywhere we go. We are still doing some programming. I have story time in the park. It had been at Riverside Park, but I've moved it to East Side Park on Mondays at 10 a.m. And doing Tai Chi in the park on Fridays at noon at East Side Park also. So if anybody is interested in coming to that, we've got 3 more weeks of that, and I believe 3 more weeks of story time. And then we will be working on fall programming. Don't know yet if it's going to be outside, hybrid, online, or what. We are doing our book clubs with Zoom. So if you don't have an internet access, you can still call in and participate. And I have a program coming up. This is going to be an experiment, but it should be a fun one. It's called Watercolors for Peace. So I've picked out 5 really nice quotes about peace and love. And people can pick out which quote they want, which font they want it in. We can print it out on watercolor paper. And I have some images that then you can transfer. And then the program is going to be you in your own home and me via Zoom teaching you how to do this craft. But you would just need to provide your own Sharpie and pencil and scissors and watercolor paints, all of which really is not expensive. Mm-hmm. And I'm sad to say that Cindy Zierden, our children's librarian of 15 plus years, is retiring. And we have hired a replacement, Alexa Ochaki, who is from Cannonball, as our children's librarian. And I believe it's going to be a fabulous match. And she's going to do wonderful things with our children. And right now I'm working with Cindy on some kind of a drive-by goodbye. And so that people can say goodbye and thank you for all of her years of service. And then finally, Laura didn't touch on this, but she and I have been working together, trying to find ways that the library can get more hotspots to loan. We currently have 3, and they are very popular, and we really can't keep one in the library for longer than a day or 2. So there's definitely a need for more library, or for more hotspots to loan out. And I anticipate that if the schools end up going online this year, that students and families will need more hotspots. So we're working on finding ways to use some grant money and possibly Blandon money, if we can make that work, to secure some more hotspots for the library. And that is everything that I have planned. Do you have any questions for me?
I wonder if that's a valid question. I'm wondering, we were just talking about the CARES money from the state that we'd have to give back to the county, to the state, Laura went through the whole wonderful thing. I wonder if hotspots would be a legitimate purchase. Certainly something
That's a really good idea.
technologically, they're not terribly expensive. I mean, we're talking about putting a few in the parks. Maybe we could put them in all the parks,
And I got an email today from TechSoup for the mobile beacon hotspots, which are, if we pay upfront, if they require it's upfront, it's $120 per hotspot for the year. So we could potentially buy a few, and it wouldn't be expensive, and the service is good.
Well, yeah, and the thing with having that hotspot is, you just add that much more bandwidth to the household, and we're going to have more working from home. We're going to have a lot more distance learning. It's going to be the way things are for a while, and this might be a really good way to bridge that gap between those of us in town with all our great internet service and the people out in the rural areas who may not have as much. I don't know. I think it's a thought.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah.
Anything else for Nicole? Thank you, Nicole.
Thanks.
Park Board, Matt, you got something?
Yeah, the park board discussed where we're at with the pool. They had an inspector come, and I believe the pump got a passing grade, and now the next step is to look at the lines to see how the pipes, where they're fractured, how bad they are, and if they're okay to run as is, or if they need to be replaced, in whichever way we would have to replace them. But that's the next step in the pool study to see what our next step is going to be in the future. We also talked about, we've invited the school to have a representative at our park board meeting in August to discuss the tennis courts and hopefully to create a relationship between the city and the school board, dividing up the cost of the tennis courts, because we've had this discussion, but there is nothing written down if the tennis courts belong to the school, if they belong to the city, because they're the only tennis courts in town. The old tennis courts that were by the pool are no more. So we've invited the school to open up that dialogue. And then also the hot spots in the park, we talked about that, if we can get some of those hot spots. And we approved the use of East Side, Hannah's Bend, and Riverside. And we talked about how far out the service is to see if Riverside, how far that would reach, if that would reach Veterans Memorial as well, maybe even Don Mensing across the river, and just to see what kind of service that would get, so that when people are, letting their kids play in the parks, they can be on their phone and use, not have to use data, and instead use the hotspots. That's it.
Is there any status on the West Side Park yet?
West Side Park has been approved.
Know when they're going to start?
No date set on construction, but
Okay.
it is approved and green lit. We're just waiting.
Okay, let's go around. Chief, you got something? David, anything?
Nothing, thank you.
Yeah. Neil?
Got a couple items. You asked about the West Side Park. They're actually going to get started next Wednesday. That came in unexpectedly today. So they're going to get it ready, and they're showing up. So you'll see some activity. So the second thing I'm going to probably want to talk about is the CARES funding, and how we had a Goodhue County meeting with the administrators and the county administrative staff today, and they discussed many items of what their thoughts are and how they're going to spend some of their money. So it was a great meeting, and I can bring that to the council. Some of the things they were talking about is updating the technology in here. If we're going to be in this Zoom stuff for a long time, maybe Mike could help us out and see if there's some updates that if somebody's talking over there, we can get a camera that can point. I was on the Zoom meeting last Planning Commission. I couldn't see that portion of the council chambers, and maybe we could get some stuff. A lot of things that was discussed, and I can share that with you. We're going to have a design review a meeting for the trail grant that we got. That's coming up in the next week or so, and you'll be seeing that on the second meeting of August. And then we'll, for approval, and we'll go out for bids on that, and hopefully we can get that thing put in yet this year. Tomorrow night, we got Public Works Director position interviews. Steve, Mayor, we're going to be doing them at, I believe, 5 o'clock. So we'll probably have some information at the next council meeting on that position. And you mentioned the planning and zoning meeting was changed, so you got that covered. So that's all I have for today.
Okay. Well, let's go around the horn here at the council. Morris, you got anything?
Nope.
Mary Jo? Matt?
Nope.
Bill? Steve?
Just one thing for Jeff. I've been approached by a couple residents in Cannon Falls, and I've witnessed it myself, that they seem to have created another lane at the stoplights again. Seems to be a lot of abuse there again, if any.
We've noticed an uptick in the number of vehicles using that as a turn lane only. So I'm going to visit with the MnDOT people again, and then we're also try to get the Beacon to run another story, and then do some educational traffic stops probably.
Because the street crossers, you know, they get complacent when we're all following the rules, except for a few of them. And
Yeah, I've heard from a couple of residents specifically on the pedestrian use and people not paying attention to them. So.
Yeah, I had a car just zoom in right to the right of me the other day, and it's like, whoa, it's a good thing I know what I'm doing, because this could have been an accident, because I was turning right.
that's all I have.
Derek? The only thing I've got is I should probably mention something about the downtown parking lot. All the trees came down there the other day, and I got a lot of emails and a lot of calls. You know, at the last meeting, we approved tree replacement down there. I guess we should have probably had a motion or something to take down the trees, because we took down some pretty big trees. But the idea being that the trees had matured to the fact that they were starting to make the concrete heave and the pavement, so they really had to be replaced. And we approved, you know, the replacement of those trees at the last meeting, so it was hard. Everybody was emailing and calling me, but that was the reason for it, so just so everybody's aware of it, so. That's all I got, so we'll get right into public input. Citizens may speak to issues not on the agenda. Before speaking, please give your name and address for the record, and kindly limit your comments to 3 minutes. Public comments must be respectful, pertinent to city business, and adhere to applicable data privacy rules. The City Council will not take action on any issue raised by the public, but may choose to schedule consideration of the item on a future agenda. I'll open the public input.
Babe O'Gorman. I have been wanting to talk to you, Matt, but this is as good as any. I was at the park board meeting, and it seemed to me as though quite a few people, members of the park board, were concerned about the tennis courts being locked. And it's good that you're getting together with the school and going to get an agreement. This kind of happened with John Birch Park, too. And I don't think there's ever been an agreement made. And see, it's real hard for you to own a tennis court on the school's property. Now, I know that you gave money. It's good that you'd have an agreement. But it appeared as though there was a lot of discussion about the school not maintaining those tennis courts. Well, I kind of waited for somebody to say something, and nobody ever did. That's what's going on down to our swimming pool. And you guys chose to just lock the pool. The pool has not been maintained properly, and it's obvious. I happen to be somewhat of an expert in cement, and we heard the song and dance about the 3 to 4 weeks of the Public Works crew, and I brought that up. Was going to take them to get it ready. Well, we found out it was only one person. We found out that person wasn't patching the pool. That person isn't painting the pool. It's all done by others, not the Public Works crew. And it's just odd to me that we sit here and publicly announce rumor and things that are less than factual. And we should stick to the facts. And there was a member of the Public Works staff that was at the meeting that mentioned that we already have 12 parks, that we don't maintain all that well. And one of them is Hannah's Bend, and there was a fence down for like 6 weeks down there. The water just got turned on, ironically, the day that you held your park board meeting last Thursday. And I took my grandchildren canoeing this weekend. The canoe rentals closed down, which is their choice. I went to Hannah's Bend, the gate's locked. So if you catch what I'm trying to tell you is that, yes, the school decided to close their tennis courts. They're theirs. They can do that. But don't complain because you're closing the pool. It affects many more people than use that tennis court, and you're closing Hannah's Bend. That's all I'm saying. So get the facts straight, maintain your own stuff, and then get an agreement with the school, because we haven't got one with John Birch Park yet, to my knowledge. I could be wrong.
Anybody else? Public input. Public input. Third and final call, public input.
I hope I can get through this without, I just have, it seems like I don't want to be always end in a not so positive note, but I'm Tim Deemer, Cannon Falls, 29-year resident. So I think we both, I would like to just say that like to see the demeanor of some of what was spoken tonight and how it was makes a difference. But I don't know if it seems like this is something that's, I don't know if there's a statute of limitations in terms of stuff that's been going on that I've just been bottling up, I guess you could say, and it has to do partly with customer service. And one good thing about these masks, you don't have to shave, and you still can. I wasn't trying to make any, but if I had somebody else speaking on my behalf, this would go a lot better. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this, a pledge, kind of nothing like the pledge we say at the beginning of every meeting, but it's a pledge to make it okay. It's cards I've had for a while. I would like to pass these out to the council members and the mayor and the police chief and whoever else. But to say there's 3 steps about learning more, start talking, and pass it on. You can do the pledge online. I guess I'm just reading this now. I haven't looked at these for quite some time. But there's one thing that the instructions, I guess it says here for the public input, that the commission, the mayor, and the council members that are present will not take action on any issue raised by me or during public input, but they may choose to schedule consideration of the item on future agendas. So I'm asking, I don't know how to put this in words, but things that have been a challenge, frustration, just because of how it just seems like it's okay for somebody to be a little somewhat disrespectful or be disturbing. Some of it has to do with using the library. And I asked them politely, and talking that was going on, I asked if they could, well, I don't want to take up all the time to explain the whole thing, but I would like to I would like to I don't know the word, investigate or make just to be heard, and I don't know who or when or how to do it. I'd like to, like I said, it's been, something happened a couple weeks ago. Something really crazy happened at a grocery store where I asked the police about it, and they went and looked at the video, and somebody just completely kind of took me by surprise even. I couldn't, going through the exit of a checkout lane, and the guy just kept walking towards me, a guy from town here, and he just taking a step closer and closer, and I was not sure what was going on. I asked him about, giving me 6 feet or whatever, proper, whatever, guidelines, and he wouldn't. So I started taking steps back to where I stepped all the way back out of the aisle, and he just pretty much just plowed through me, and I don't understand how, people just get, and it kind of has to do with the motto, I don't know if you call it, or I'm sorry, I'm taking up a little more than 3 minutes, or the slogan that they have in the back of the police, I believe they still have it, about, to always do the right thing. I don't know if I'm kind of paraphrasing this. To do what is right, always. There's a couple keywords here, always, and the word right. Well, if you ask about, if you ask somebody what is right, I guess it comes down to it depends on who you ask. And so I'm just, I just keep putting people to sleep the more I talk, so I'm just hoping for, if you can to choose to schedule a consideration of, I don't know what the item would be. If I could get some help.
We can't comment, Tim, but we'll look into it.
That's what I've said it other ways before. You keep saying that to look into it. How are you going to look into it?
I'm not allowed to comment, so I don't know.
So but you may choose to schedule a consideration.
Anyway, you've gone over your 3 minutes. We'll talk about
So we're
this.
going to, when?
When?
Yeah.
I can't comment on it.
So you're choosing not to schedule, it says you may choose to schedule a consideration of the item on a future agenda. Nobody?
Okay, anybody else public input?
Don't have an answer?
Don't have an answer.
So what does that mean? That you ain't gonna choose then, either way. You don't want to make a choice?
I have no comment. I can't comment, Tim.
I've heard plenty of comments. outside of, I just need,
I'll make a motion to adjourn, and maybe we can talk off camera.
Second.
Okay.
Motion's been made by Matt and a second by Steve.
guys,
to
maybe,
Adjourn.
maybe.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned.